Hey, how you doing?
Well, I'm here. We'll see for how
Oh, you're
long.
muted, I think.
No,
Hmm. Okay, try me again.
I'm not muted.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. I had you muted.
Okay.
I'm going to turn my light on real quick. Hey, buddy. Wait. How's everything on the home front?
Yeah, stressful.
Sorry.
Yeah.
All fair junk coming about.
Well, just everything coming to just all the stress of everybody trying to work from home and care for kids from home, and
Yeah.
some of us are pulling more weight than others, and I'm not on the heavy toting side of that occasion. So I got to change my ways. You want something to write on? Yeah. Let me get you a pad. Here you go. Don't write on the book. Oh my.
Well, there is always that fun. I feel like Victor's been carrying the load in the house and he hasn't yet exploded, which is great. But I definitely know that it's
Well,
stressful.
yeah. So who else is on tonight?
Betsy and Karen Overstreet.
Who is Karen?
Karen Overstreet is the new president in Texas.
Okay.
So I'm trying to pull up some of the conversations that have been had about virtual meetings and stuff.
Yeah. And Jen sent out a very, very detailed, specific set of instructions.
Yeah, I have
specifically for Eagle Grange, but
I have a very detailed set of instructions that I sent to Betsy that includes how to do Grange meetings at this time. And actually, I took from what we did the other night a little bit. It still has the meeting form, but it happens to change a few little things, like instead of saying worthy steward, whatever,
prepare for work.
Right, my assistants will make examination report, that type of stuff, or open the Bible on the altar. I changed that a little bit, and so I've sent it to Betsy to give it a blessing of yes or no. I said the other option, of course, is that I can just change it back to what's in the manual and put some note in about trying to stick to it as close as possible.
I know, but it didn't say like join. See right here, has the red slash through it. Where?
There's Karen.
Hi, Karen.
You're her.
Yeah.
Hi.
Click on that red slash and you'll.
Okay, Corinne's helping me.
There you are.
Hey.
Okay, got it. How are y'all?
Great. How are you?
Good.
Good. Good.
I'm here as long as a 5-year-old will sit here. So.
Oh my.
It may be for a short period. It may be for a longer.
That's a big challenge.
Well.
Boy, you have no idea that the other night I knew she was getting rambunctious. I was thinking of you guys, because we had our Grange meeting on Zoom, and I was just thinking, oh, that is such a challenge to have kids in the house trying to do the daily stuff and then add stuff like this to it.
Indeed.
Yeah, but hopefully it all comes together sooner rather than later.
I hope so. We're still.
Are y'all states already? Are they starting to open up some?
Maybe tomorrow.
Yeah, that's what Texas said too.
But it'll be. I think here it's going to be very gradual.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think everybody's kind of scared.
Yeah. I'm gonna let you guys talk for a second. I'm gonna go grab my charger. So I'm.
Yeah. Yeah. So Karen, I work for 4-H. I work for Penn State.
Okay.
So and all of our 4-H meetings have been virtual since the middle of March and will be until at least June 19th.
Oh, whoa.
And I've been working at home since then,
Oh,
as
wow.
as has my wife. Um,
And what does she do?
she works at another college, so
Oh,
she runs a program out of another college.
okay.
So both of us trying to work at home, and with a kiddo who's trying to do school from home, is less than enthusiastic about school on the computer.
Yeah.
The stress level goes.
And how old did you say your kiddo was?
She's a kid in kindergarten.
Oh, Lord. Yeah, that's hard. Bless their hearts. That's
Indeed. And I don't know how Samantha does it with many. I don't know how many have.
all different levels, and yeah.
Yeah, she's doing the night shift basically.
I bet. My youngest daughter, she's a school teacher, and so she has 4th, 5th, and 6th grade students for English, reading, spelling, and writing. And she has to do all the lesson plans. You know, not only is she stressed, but then all the kids and the parents are stressed too. So it's a challenge.
It is. Yeah, and we have families with 4 and 5 people trying to do online meetings, and it's like the bandwidth just isn't there.
Yeah.
This has been such
Hearing from some of her parents that are, they live in a rural area, and she goes, "How am I going to download the homework so you can get?" Yeah. Here's Betsy.
Betsy.
Hi, Betsy.
Hi, Betsy.
Hi.
Come join me.
Oh, look at her.
She is definitely daddy's girl.
What are you reaching
Aw.
for? I'll get it for you. What are you reaching for?
Cute.
This bottle? Okay.
I'm going to put my glasses on so I can see everybody.
Because I'm on another meeting.
There you are.
Okay.
Oh, let's see. Trying to find this thing that everybody has commented on about virtual meetings. I'm getting that up.
Yeah, of course, I live on virtual meetings, but our Grange has now had 2, and the attendance has been better than when we're face to face. It's a long time if the meeting takes, over an hour. It's a long time, and so I was challenged to pare it down, and we had stuff to vote on and discuss, so the time didn't get pared down. So that's a challenge.
Yeah, that certainly is.
Where are you going, kiddo?
And a lot of people don't know of all the different options that they have for running these meetings. So, we talk a lot about Zoom because we use Zoom, but there's other options out there. And so, just getting people comfortable with the technology has been a challenge, I'm sure, for a lot of folks.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, Betsy has the states that don't want to do this stuff.
Yes.
All about comfort zone.
Well, it's different. It's not in the manual, it's not the way we've always done it. So states are having problems.
Yeah, that. Well, don't worry. We get to talk about that too tonight. So it's all kinds of fun tonight.
I was on the phone this afternoon for an hour with Lanny Kotler.
How was that?
An interview for their newspaper. So that was interesting.
I bet.
Yeah.
All right, so just
Many good discussions.
FYI, Betsy, I'm going to start out with you talking a little bit about the 2016 ruling, kind of where that came from. And I'm going to say, did you ever expect to be in a place where all of our Granges needed to have that type of freedom? And you can talk from there. And then, it's kind of
You're
uneven.
kind of freezing, and
Oh,
no.
she froze.
hopefully this works.
Oh no. Okay, what I will tell you is that if I go away or if I freeze, we are still rolling. So
Okay.
just keep going amongst yourselves with the conversation
Okay.
and I'll get
Are we supposed to bring something prepared, Amanda? I didn't prepare.
No, you're
Okay.
fine.
Okay. All right. Just making sure.
You're good. I wouldn't put you on the
My
spot.
chair too wiggly? I feel like it's creaking.
I tried to get her to get
Okay,
it
good.
That didn't work. Okay.
We lost-
Michael is dealing with childcare issues.
Bless his heart. Oh man, I can't even imagine.
Dude, I'm telling you, being child free is like, it is the golden ticket right now.
That's tough.
Okay. And then I have some stuff that I'll get from the discussion that was had, through the comments on different posts on Facebook. Like Tunkhannock Grange, Connecticut said that they did a social instead of a business meeting because they didn't have any business to conduct, but that may change, et cetera, et cetera. So I'll just kind of start pulling some of these people's discussion in at some point. So if there's something that you want to chime in with, especially if it's something where you have a suggestion or whatever, any one of these that I put out, just feel free.
Yeah, and some of our early meetings with our 4-H clubs were basically just social because people just hadn't seen one another.
Yeah.
And so they used a social setting to become more comfortable with the technology.
And I think that's a big thing that Granges are missing out when they're not doing these meetings that Betsy will touch on a little bit. And you can kind of verify that through the 4-H thing. So we're going to hope that we're going to go live on just Facebook tonight. I'm going to turn off the option to go on to YouTube because there's no real reason for us to be on both. So technology's fun.
Yeah.
Betsy, did you end up getting that email?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I need to spend a little time on it.
Yeah, please do. And I'll say we're gonna put it up probably later tomorrow or something like that.
Yeah.
And link
Okay.
to it in the patrons chain or something like that.
Yeah.
Patrons chain is not until next week though.
Next
so,
week.
Yeah, maybe we can just put it out generally. But hopefully that's helpful for people. Who knows at this point. Michael, you good?
I'm here.
All right.
I'm here till I'm not.
Fair enough. When you're not, that's okay. All right, I'm going to get us ready to go live so you'll know we're live when I start talking at people.
Okay.
Okay. This is why I'm starting early. Here we go. All right, we are live and welcome back to Cultivating Connections in the Time of COVID. I'm Amanda Brizana-Rios, the Communications Director for National Grange. And tonight I'm joined by 3 special guests in no particular order. National Master Betsy Huber. Hi, Betsy.
Hi.
National Lady Assistant Steward, Karen Overstreet, who's also the Texas State Grange Master. Hey, Karen.
Hey.
And Michael Martin, who is Valley Grange President in Pennsylvania, but also on our Grange Foundation Board and former National Grange Membership Director. Hey, Michael.
Pleased to be here. Good to see everybody.
How is everybody tonight?
Good.
Good.
It's good.
Yeah.
Everybody is so far holding up pretty well, so that's good. I hear some of our states may be opening some things soon. I heard that sushi is coming back to Shippensburg here in a week, so I've got a countdown going. Anything you guys are counting down to?
No, just waiting to get out of the house. 6 weeks is a long time.
That's true.
And Southeast Pennsylvania, it's going to be a while longer. I think we're at least going to be the last area in the state to open up. And it's still out there too much here for us to open. So
You guys have been the epicenter here in Pennsylvania.
yeah.
And that is, of course, where our national convention is this year. So we're just
Yes.
waiting to make sure you all open up and get well.
Yes.
So tonight we are joining, and we made sure to put this later so that our West Coast folks could join us around their dinner time to talk about something that is impactful across the entire country right now, and that is how to make sure that we are continuing to meet at this critical juncture, because it is indeed critical to keep cultivating those connections and make sure that we're connected to our members, to our community. And one of the aspects is the actual meeting, which is a challenge when you can't get physically together. So tonight I wanted to talk a little bit about virtual meetings, which does not always require internet connection, although if you're here, you're probably on the internet. But for some of our other members who are phone-only individuals, that could include them as well. So I first wanted to, though, go back. I want to hit the rewind button for 4 years. 4 years ago, not too long after you became president, Betsy, you were asked to make a ruling that has been really, really important now today. So can you talk to me a little bit about the ruling that you made in 2016?
Sure. Well, first I want to say I was on here on April 1st to welcome you all to Grange Month. So I guess it's fitting that I should be here April 30th to say goodbye to Grange Month. It seems like it was really short. Just last week I was here, but cultivating connections is what we're really talking about tonight. Yes, 4 years ago in March, I did issue a ruling. There had been some discussions about how to include people who were not physically in your community anymore and still belonged to your Grange and wanted to participate in your meetings, but weren't able to physically attend. Like people in nursing homes, kids away at college. There are all kinds of situations where people might want to be active in your Grange and just couldn't be there physically. So I searched through the digest and could not find anywhere where it said that you had to be physically present to participate in a Grange meeting. So I did issue the ruling that said that people could join a Grange meeting by phone or by Zoom or Skype or any of those methods, and they could fully participate. They were allowed to vote if they joined in that way. Never thinking that we would be in this situation where we would have to have the entire meeting or all the attendees join virtually because they were not permitted to meet face-to-face. So it's kind of really fortunate, I guess, that I was thinking ahead and made that ruling. And some Granges had members join remotely. I heard of a couple Granges who actually had virtual meetings on Zoom or conference call before this time. But in the last 6 weeks or so, I've heard of a lot more that have done it, which makes me really happy. It's so important in this time, as in any time, that we keep that connection with our Grange brothers and sisters.
Yeah, and I definitely want to talk about a little bit more of that. But first, I want to ask a question, because I know that this is kind of uneven. The way master's rulings work, I think, at least I can try to explain maybe, is that you issue them, and that at convention, the delegates get to look over and make sure that they agree that that's indeed the correct interpretation of our bylaws, and they can say yes or no. And in this case, some of the state granges basically ask to be able to make their own kind of parameters, not their own rules per se, but their own parameters for this. Is that right?
Yes, sort of. The master's rulings made throughout the year go to the Grange Law Committee for review, and they can decide whether they agree with the ruling, whether there needs to be a change in the digest to reflect that ruling. So in this case, they didn't actually change the digest, but they proposed a resolution which was adopted by the delegates that said that each state grange should develop parameters for virtual meetings in their state. So several states, couple states did that and sent me their rules, which was great. I think most states probably did not do that. So I think that in that case, they can follow the National Grange ruling, which is that yes, you can have virtual meetings and your members can vote on business at those meetings.
And that's the case, I know, for you, Karen, in Texas, because you weren't the master at the time when this ruling came about.
Right.
So when you guys have really started using what the ruling said, it's been under your term right now. So can you talk a little bit about what it means to be in a state that allowed you that flexibility, because there was nothing specific?
Well, when we first started our, we were supposed to have an executive committee meeting actually in March. And that was right when everything was starting out and kind of blossomed or whatever. And so we tried it with the executive committee, the Texas State Grange Executive Committee, and it was kind of hit and miss. Some people were totally on board. They got the technology installed and everything was, and then some people were having technical difficulty out in a rural area, but they called in then. And so we could put them on speakerphone and they could hear the meeting through that. So we kind of had a combination of that. And then within 2 weeks ago, one of the subordinate granges, Alamo Subordinate Grange, did their Zoom meeting. And it was very successful. Everyone enjoyed it. They got to at least see each other and hear each other, which that's a big thing because we're all isolated in this rural area. And it's basically our family and nobody else, you know. And so that was a big thing. And then we also have another subordinate grange that's going to try it this week. Some of them are choosing not to do it because of technical shortcomings. And so they're choosing just not to meet. And they're keeping in touch by phone. They have like a phone tree, things going like that. But so we're trying it and it was very successful and we got a lot of good feedback. And people who couldn't come out because maybe they're taking care of their mother and they couldn't come to the Grange meeting, but that also incorporated them. And we got people from out of state who are still members, but they could still stay connected. So, and I'm hoping that the next time that the meeting is, that we'll be able to branch out a little bit more to other people.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, you've touched on something that's important, which is that connection, you and Betsy. Michael, I want to bring you in with a little bit of a different perspective. You were just not too long before that had left National Grange as membership director. And I think you were starting to see the itch that some people wanted to adopt technology and others were, you know, interested in keeping meetings the way they were. And you're part of an action Grange, which is a Grange that's changed just a hair from what the traditional old school is. So was it a big leap for you guys to go to a meeting form like this, or had it been ever discussed, from what you'd been learning from other Granges as membership director, prior to all of this happening?
When I was membership development director with the National Grange, the question was more about, was it fair or was it unfair for people to call into a meeting if they weren't present, and could they vote? That has been solved, or that's been settled. But now, as master or president of Valley Grange in Pennsylvania, one of our action Granges, we didn't really discuss. We've been meeting face to face forever. And we had a meeting face to face. And then within the next week, we were all quarantined and confined to home. So we canceled our upcoming meeting. And then when I had a sense that this was going to linger a little bit, it's like, well, we can't just cancel all of our meetings. So I asked the executive committee, and we basically took a leap of faith. And we met via Zoom. That's a teleconferencing technology that I'm very familiar with because I use it all the time for my work. So I was able to host the meeting and send out the invitation. And in Pennsylvania, and probably in Texas, and I would assume in some other states, not everybody has broadband connection with lots of bandwidth in their home. So we had people who could join from their home computer with a video audio connection. That was not a problem. We had people who could join from home on their computer, but they didn't have a camera. So they had audio connection, but they could see all of the rest of us on the computer. We had people who joined from their landline phone or their cell phone and dialed in, and they couldn't see, but they could hear and they could participate. And some people couldn't get a microphone to work, so they used the chat pod in the bottom of the screen, and they could type their comments, and then we could all see them, or I could relay them to the people that were dialed in. So it's very uneven in terms of how complete people's connection were, and even some hybrid ones where one family could see us on their computer, but their computer wouldn't support the audio connection, so they actually dialed in phone for the audio connection. So we had this low-tech high thing, but our attendance was great. Everybody was thrilled to be together, even if virtually. We held our meeting pretty much in form. I mean, the assistants didn't walk anywhere and open the Bible, but we had the Bible, we had the flag, we had the salutation, we had the prayer. So we had, in my estimation, a Grange meeting, and Amanda will probably talk more about form. But that's where I'm coming from, is trying to communicate with our members, share them multiple ways in which they could engage with our virtual meeting. And I was thrilled with how many did. More actually joined the virtual meetings we've had than we usually have face-to-face in the Grange Hall. So that's kind of a snapshot of how we were able to connect people. And it wasn't as simple as pushing one button and everybody was there. There were lots of variations. But if somebody in your Grange is familiar with the technology, they can do a lot of troubleshooting. And actually, I have to call our Grange chaplain tomorrow and have a tutorial because he was frustrated that he wasn't able to connect for our last meeting. So we'll have a one-on-one, and then he'll be fine for the next meeting. That's the nuts and bolts and the mechanics of it, Amanda.
Okay. So Betsy, I know that your Grange has done meetings where you've been calling in because, of course, you're sometimes in DC with us. at the office when you need to be at your home Grange meeting. So you've done this before by phone as well. Is that correct?
Yes. Early this year, I think it was, maybe January, we signed up and got our own free conference call phone number, which is good forever, I guess. So anytime we want to have a meeting or on our regular nights, everybody just calls into that conference call number. It's very simple. Can't see each other, but we can hear each other. And a lot of it is just social, checking in on everybody. We have a couple elderly members, even older than me. You know, we have a member, I think she's 90 or close to it, and she even joined us on Zoom. The second or 2 meetings ago, we tried Zoom, and one of our members really had a problem, I guess just fear of the internet, which, you know, Zoom is great because you can join it with just a phone. You don't have to do the video and internet thing. But the conference calls seem to work better for us. So we've done that, and it's true. We've had more participation. We had a daughter of one of our members who we haven't seen in probably 30 years join on the last 2 conference calls. And, you know, my grandkids that are living away or away at school, they can join now. So it's been great.
Do you think that that person, especially that you mentioned who hasn't been there for 30 years, joined because they're looking for something to put on the calendar that breaks up the monotonous days at home?
That could be, although she's a nurse or a doctor, not sure which, but she's quite busy. But her brother is recently elected master of our Grange, so he probably put a lot of pressure on her to join the meeting.
Fair enough. Karen or Michael, I think I'll start with Karen. Have you seen that the people who are coming to the meetings virtually by phone or online seem to be looking for that human connection more?
Yes.
Or is it just because of the flexibility of not having to drive somewhere?
Well, I think a little of both. You know, I think they're looking forward to just staying connected. They want to help the community. And I mean, that was one of the first things, the order of business is like, okay, guys, what are we going to do? I mean, we can't just stay at home and not do anything. So that was a big thing, is like, we have to have a meeting. We didn't meet in April, at the beginning of April, which we should have, you know, had a regular one, but they were like, we've got to get together. We just can't just sit back. So that was a big initiative for a lot of people.
So I want to ask some of the more complex, I think, stuff. And I'm going to start with you, Michael, because you mentioned a little bit of it. And you've been the most recent one, I think, to do what we would consider more full-form meetings in this, not maybe talking so much about social. I am fortunate enough to be part of your Grange, and I know we spent a couple $1,000s this past meeting on good works and good projects. So we actually voted on business.
Mm-hmm.
So can you talk to me a little bit about what went into some of your decisions about how you would run that meeting and still keep it as a Grange meeting, and how you approached doing business versus just having a social interaction, and why that was important to have business?
I was just in a Grange meeting mindset when the executive committee said, yes, let's try it. So, and for me, just the way I grew up in Grange, the ritual is important to me. So I knew I didn't just want to say, okay, meeting come to order, roll call, old business, new business, okay, we're done. That would have been a PTO meeting or a library committee meeting, but it wouldn't have been a Grange meeting in my mind. Now, I've had some pushback in terms of, hey, it's the meeting's too long. You got to cut it back. And Amanda, you and I talked about that, and it's like, well, what do we cut out? Because that closing master's charge, you know, as we are, again, to separate and mingle with the world, that's very important. And that sets the tone for leaving the meeting and knowing that what our work's about. The salutation is very meaningful. And Amanda, you and I talked about this. All of this doesn't add more than 5 or 7 minutes to the evening to make it an actual Grange meeting. At a regular Grange meeting, we would read the minutes of the previous meeting, and at the end of the meeting, we'd read the records of the previous meeting, and at the end of the meeting, we'd read the minutes of the meeting we just held. We've kind of taken one of those off the board, and we're just going to vote on the records of the previous meeting at the subsequent meeting, so that we don't have to listen to everything that we just lived through. But in business, we just had people, members would say, hey, what about this? What about this? And one thing that we do is support our community. And we don't see a reason to stop that. Now, our support has been financial in a virtual world. We can't get out there. Well, a little bit of it was tangible. And if you look at page 70 on your Good Day magazine, open it up to page 70 and you'll see one of our juniors standing there with a big bag of toilet paper rolls. That was there you go, Amanda. You
mean this page 70 right here?
The bag is bigger than Gretchen, and it was virtually all the toilet paper we had in the Grange Hall. Now, that doesn't sound very grand, but we support a women's shelter. And if you have a house with 40 women and no rolls of toilet paper, that would create a crisis. So we helped avert a crisis for at least a little while through that tangible action. Since then, our actions have been more financial than tangible. But even after we're back meeting in our Grange halls, there may not be a reason to stop having a virtual connection as well. We could project Zoom in our Grange hall, and if people talked from specific places, they could be seen, and members could join us. We've had members that join us because it was convenient, that they could meet us from home. We had members that joined us who haven't been real active recently, and it gave them an opportunity to reconnect and vote and say their mind. So for me, it was a real Grange meeting. We skipped the songs only because I've seen these wonderful choral numbers on YouTube with everybody singing from their home, and they are astounding. When we say the Pledge of Allegiance on Zoom, it is quite disjointed, and it's an ordeal. I don't think we need to try and do that with music too. So we tried to have as complete a meeting as possible. We're still trying to fine tune the time because you don't want to sit on Zoom as long as you'll interact face to face in a Grange hall. So that is a challenge.
So somebody asked how long your meetings are, and I think I recall ours was about an hour and 15 minutes. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay. Karen, about how long was your Alamo Grange meeting?
Ours is about 45 minutes.
Is that typical?
It is short. Well, no. It usually goes longer. We try to keep it within an hour. We have the social time before, and then the business meeting is about an hour. But like a lot of the reports and stuff like that, we kind of skipped over this time. And granted, it was just the first time, so we're probably going to tweak it, learn from it. We got feedback, a lot of good feedback from the different members on what they would like to see, what they'd like, So I think it's a learning process for us, being that we just started. And so I think that we're just going to kind of keep on tweaking it until we get it And then hopefully more people in the state of Texas will be able to do it also. So.
Betsy, when someone is considering this, and I think we're going to go into a couple more specifics in a minute about how people can do it, because we're getting a lot of questions on that. But when someone's considering this and they need to figure out whether or not their state's going to allow, what their state's going to allow, how do they find that out?
They'd have to contact their state office, if there is one, or their state master. Hopefully the state master has put some guidance out in their newsletter. I know there's sometimes a lag time between when the newsletter is put together and when it actually reaches you. So it may not be in there yet, but give the state master a call or email and check into what actually is allowed in your state or what their guidance is.
And there's nothing prohibiting any Grange from having a meeting, not face-to-face, in whatever virtual context they want, that's not business oriented, that's social, right?
Right. I mean, anybody, any group of people can get together on the phone or Zoom for a social event. There's no ruling about that. There's no nothing forbidden about that. Michael brought up something that can be important going forward too, as we are released from the stay-at-home order. Some people may still not be comfortable going out to a crowd of 10 or 20 people at a Grange meeting, and would prefer to stay home and continue to do it remotely. So that's a great way to still include them if they're just not comfortable going out yet into a crowd.
And even for the states that have said that they don't want to see virtual meetings happen where the business occurs, you could still invite a local Grange member to be part of that meeting. They just wouldn't be counted in the vote. Is that correct?
I didn't quite catch that. Say.
Sure. Sorry, I know my connection.
Oh, yes. If they are joining remotely and the state Grange does not permit remote voting, yes, the business can still happen in the in-person meeting. Correct.
Okay. So there are options for ways in which every single Grange at this point can meet. And I think I want to stress that, because again, if you're seeing us here, you're online, and we're very happy about that. But we all know that there are Grange members that operate by landline only, or maybe a cell phone, but without a data plan or something like that. And so they're not looking for, we keep going back to Zoom. They're not looking for a meeting that is what we traditionally consider a Zoom meeting, which has this face-to-face interaction. They're looking for something with a call-in feature. So I know that we're putting together guidance that should come out soon that includes some screenshots and information about several different platforms that you can use with free accounts, like freeconferencecall.com and Uber Conference. Google Meet will be added to that because we just saw some comments that several Granges are using that. Zoom, of course, and Instant Conference is something else that was just sent to me. So there are options across the boards for anybody at any technology level, as long as they have a phone, to be included. I want to go back to something Michael said, and he talked about setting the tone and how important it was to make sure to at least include what we say at the end of the meeting, where the master is talking about going forth and mingling with the world, and also about the salutation. Karen, did you include any of that with your meeting? And is that something that, when you said, this was a test run, but we're going to tweak it, that you find might be valuable to add?
We didn't go through the whole opening. The master called us to order. We did the opening prayer. We didn't do an opening song. We did the salutation. We did the flag presentation and the opening of the Bible. And then we went through, he had an agenda, and we went through the agenda. because we weren't for sure if we were going to get kicked off right after 40 minutes. It's just like, okay, we got to hurry and get this all squeezed into here. So, I mean, it was kind of like, well, we could have had time to do that. But so that's kind of where we were on that meeting.
And I know you mentioned the 40 minutes because if you're doing a free account,
Right.
There's the 40-minute limit for Zoom. If you're
Yes.
using Uber Conference, it's a 45-minute limit. If you're using free conference call, it's 6 hours.
Oh.
I do not want to be in a Grange meeting for 6 hours. So I will not accept that meeting invitation if you send it to me or Michael. I'm sorry. But there are different limits on these platforms for free plans. And if you have a meeting that's going to run past that 40-minute mark or 45-minute mark and can't for some reason get on the free conference call or another one of these services that might allow you to go for as long as you want, Betsy, you've made available our Zoom account.
Yes. By arrangement with Stephanie Wilkins, our IT director, you can borrow our National Grange Zoom account. It does get a little busy sometimes, so you need to schedule that in advance and just make sure that that time is free. But we're happy to allow Granges to use that, maybe even just to try it out to see if it's something that they would like to do on their own.
I think the other thing that, we always hear, what is National Grange doing for us? What are the state Granges doing for us? I think the other thing that's been really neat is to watch that some of these state Granges have purchased their own accounts and are allowing their states to use that. And I know you have a more exhaustive list than I do, but do you know what states have possibly done that at this point?
I don't think I know all of them, but I know Pennsylvania purchased the subscription probably a year and a half or 2 years ago. So they were all ready to go. They used it for committee meetings, for department director meetings. And then Connecticut has purchased a subscription. I know Oregon was thinking about it. Maybe by this time they have purchased their own. They're the only ones that I'm aware of.
So if you're located in one of those states, you can also reach out to your state Grange office or president to be able to, use their subscription to test out this service if Zoom is the place that you want to go. We use it because, well, we've spent the money there, but also for these events, because it allows us the feature to go remote, which means go live to Facebook or YouTube. We're using it, but that isn't a technical thing that most of these Granges are looking for. So a lot of Granges can use one of these other platforms that may have a more kind of user-friendly interface, I think, and something that you'll see detailed out in the information that comes out soon from us. I noticed a couple questions that have come up, and I'm going to go through a couple of those now. But before I do that, sorry, I'm typing a response to someone. Before I do that, you mentioned that people may not be comfortable coming out, when their states first allow them to. And I think that that's a super important thing because we're all in this right now where we're all at home and experiencing that. But there's going to be an even deeper loneliness that sets in for the people who feel for their own safety they need to stay inside. Betsy, why do you think that it's important to make sure if you haven't had some type of meeting, not just a check-in with your members, but a meeting that's essential in this next couple of weeks or month?
Granges are busy groups. We have lots going on, from contests and national contests, state contests, junior activities, not to mention all our community service. So it really concerns me. I worry that if a Grange just says, well, we're not allowed out, we're not going to meet, that it will kind of disintegrate. I really worry that if there's no connection and no activity for what's going to be at least a couple months, several months, we don't know how long, that we're going to lose some of those Granges and definitely lose members. So that's why I think it's so important just to have that connection, to get together somehow to do the business of the Grange as well as keep that social connection.
Karen, you're from a small state where you've only had one Grange who's embraced this so far, a second one that's coming on board soon. Are you concerned about that same thing? Do you?
Yes, I am. And I know I did touch base with all of them this week and last week, and just to make sure that they were okay and kind of get their feedback, because I wanted to kind of see where they stood before I came on here tonight. And some of them are just like, I don't feel comfortable doing it. And so I'm trying to think of creative ways, like even if you meet in a parking at your Grange Hall out in the yard, in the lawn, you can still stay 6 feet away, but at least you'd have some type of contact. And we have beautiful weather here. So we couldn't be outside having a picnic within ourselves, you know? And just the act of going to the Grange Hall, I think that needs to keep being persisted, you know?
I mean, I think of tailgates, you know.
Yes.
I think of, you go to a football game or whatever, and you're sitting with your friends, you know, cooking around your barbecue. You might be yelling over to somebody, but you have a total sense of being part of community because there's everyone else sitting on their tailgate doing their thing because you're all there for the same reason. I can't imagine that Granges can't be tailgates.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Great comparison.
Yeah.
That's because you really like the Penn State tailgates. I understand. That's one of these. So, Michael, I mean, I don't think that you're as worried about losing the Grange. We have 130 members, a really healthy treasury, an annual large-scale project that's appreciated statewide. So it's a different beast in some ways, but just knowing how that inclusion and how that social structure, you know, really helps people, especially from your job in 4-H, where you see that sometimes they just want to get together and talk. Why or how would you encourage a Grange that you know that struggles with technology, struggles with adapting, struggles with the idea, you're from Massachusetts, so you know this, struggles with the idea of moving outside of the bounds of that manual, to take this on?
Well, I guess I would hope that in every Grange there was someone who was familiar with this technology from their work, from their volunteer service, or that someone who could create the Zoom room or get together the dial-in number and passcode on a free conference call or whatever. Those are the two that I'm familiar with. So through my work, I have a permanent free conference call number of my own, and I have a permanent Zoom room of my own. So it's easy for me to host meetings. That may not be the case everywhere. And yes, we have some people who don't even have email addresses. And as you said, they have a landline phone, or maybe they still have a flip phone, but you can still call. That's why I like Zoom, because you can dial into it, as Betsy said, or free conference calling. Everybody's on the same footing. You're dialing in. It doesn't take data. Now, they're not necessarily free telephone calls. So everybody might have to be willing to pony up their telephone call. But it is a easily accessible technology, says someone who's familiar with it. Now, someone who's not familiar with it, after the first meeting, the fear, the trepidation, the frustration, if you will, of trying to get connected will go away, and it'll become more familiar, and hopefully more Granges will continue to meet during this time and invite those people who may be joining us now, who may not choose to or be able to join us face to face when we get back in the hall. Now, we're still meeting on our regular night at a regular time. We haven't changed that up. So that's what I've got for you.
So I'm glad that you kind of touched on this, although you didn't hit it very hard. And that was my last question before I go into some of the questions from some of the audience members that we haven't already covered. And that goes to each of you. Do you see opening our Grange meetings through virtual attendance, either by phone or video conference like this, as a way to attract potential new members who are looking for anything to do or any type of connection at this time? Betsy?
Absolutely. All it takes is an invitation, especially with all of these Facebook Live programs that might be of interest to someone you know. Somebody wants to learn sign language, you can connect them with our lessons on Friday afternoons and then say, by the way, our Grange is meeting Friday night. Why don't you join that call too, or that Zoom, whatever. I also wanted to say that this might be a great time to get those grandkids involved. You know, if you're having trouble connecting, ask a grandchild or a child, and they can help you, and maybe they'll be interested enough to stay on the call, to stay in the meeting and find something that interests them to keep on coming after this is over.
Karen?
I totally agree. And we're pretty spread out. And so this kind of helps with people who just say, oh, it's just easier if I just stay home. And so I think this is a way to say, well, you know, if you can't come, this is what we're doing. And also I wanted to mention that it's really, in a Grange meeting, it's hard for, if a hearing impaired person is sitting in a meeting when everybody's talking, they don't know who to follow. This way they can, if they're having difficulty hearing, they can find the person that's talking, and it's able, you know, it's easier to follow the Grange meeting than it is in a Grange hall sometimes, because there's too much going on. There's too many people talking, and there's so many echoes going on in the Grange hall that you know, some hearing impaired people get really upset. My dad was one of them, so I know. But this way it limits the person, the speaker. And so the person can focus on the speaker a lot better.
Michael, I think that you and I have talked about the fact that it's very, very hard for a 70-year-old to entice a 20-year-old to come to a meeting. There's just, it feels almost like a forced encounter. And so I think right now, you know, we have membership leads from all over the country. If I tossed you a potential membership lead and you invited somebody from Lewisberry area into our Grange meeting, they may have more comfort to attend from a distance on a platform they're used to, and then look forward to meeting the people in person for that first hug and that first introduction. What do you think?
Well, I agree. And I also think that as a result of this pandemic that we're in and all of the virtual lives, especially virtual schooling, if there's a family with school-aged children, I don't think that technology is daunting anymore, because I think they're all using it now. Now, the daunting part may be access, and the Grange is working hard on that. But I think the comfort level of our society is going to be quite a bit higher, or the comfort quotient is going to be better with technology, with teleconferencing and with telephone conferencing as a result of all this. So I think people will be not averse to a virtual meeting. I think that they'll be used to them.
I actually want to take that for an observation that I had earlier that I really didn't know how to work in, but you mentioned that you kind of get in the mindset of a Grange meeting by doing some of the stuff out of our manual and not cutting that to the bone when you're having one of these virtual meetings. And I wanted to say that, you know, if you're on Zoom 6 times a week and you just get on another Zoom, you're yelling at the dog, you're putting the kids over here, you're writing, you're kind of in that pajama zone of, you know, Zooming for work. snapping those words, you snap to those words. You realize you're in a Grange meeting, you need to pay attention, you're going to be making decisions, things like that. I think having those words is really important for people who are used to hearing them and used to knowing them, because it puts you in a totally different mindset of where you normally are on that technological platform. So, okay, so we have some questions from our audience. We have lots of questions on this topic, and I'm glad for that, because it sounds like there's lots of people interested in making this work. So the first thing I should say is there's a note. New York State Grange also has purchased Zoom and has made it available to their members. So anybody here from New York, there you go. Pennsylvania as well. Wayne Campbell confirmed that they do indeed have it. Connecticut, as you mentioned. So if you're from one of those states, first stop shop, if you're looking for a Zoom meeting, is go to your state Grange, because they've put money in. This is what the state Grange is doing for you. This is where your dues dollars are going. Second stop shop, come to us or any of the other members. So, all right, we have a few questions about, one is about voting. And I think that there's two prongs to this. One is just voting in general. How do you do it? And so whoever wants to jump in on that can. And then the second part, I think that's important, is voting on new candidates, because you're supposed to ballot secretly. And so we all know that there are Granges who don't even worry about that part. But for those who are sticking with the manual and doing the good work of making sure that we have people of good moral character sitting with us in these meetings and doing that important work of voting, balloting secretly is hard. So I'm going to turn this over to you guys as far as talking a little bit about voting. And I'm going to try and pull something up on my screen in the meantime that I think will be useful as a resource. So Betsy, they can vote now. You said so. So how do they do it?
The executive committee has met by Zoom and conference call for years, and we just do aye and nay as a group. But if the master thinks it's going to be a close vote, you can always have a roll call vote and go one at a time. As far as voting on candidates, that's a little more tricky. I think I have to think about that a while, but you can always vote by email, and that would be more private. Just have one person, like the secretary or the master, be the recipient, and the members all vote yes or no on the candidates and email their vote to the designated person. I think that would work. It would take a little bit longer, but that would work for the privacy issue.
Yeah. And I know in our Grange, we vote with the voting sign of the order.
We do too.
And if you're on the telephone, you vote with your voice.
Okay, yeah.
Now, so if your Grange was comfortable, so I'll talk about Zoom. If you're using Zoom and you're comfortable and competent with it, and people know how to use the chat, you could vote by private message to the tellers committee, to the master or whomever. As long as everyone understood how to do that, that is private and confidential. If you're not sure how to do that, you'd be sending your vote to everybody that's on. But the technology is there without great difficulty to have a roll call vote that is, or to have a private vote that is only viewed by one person, and then you figure out, I guess, how to verify how a second person would verify that.
So I'll just say that I went on to doodle.com and I just created a vote, a poll. And so for those of you who are on watching this live, in the comments section, National Grange just posted a link to a doodle poll. We're going to test this out real quick to see if this is indeed anonymous the way you want it. I think that traditionally in Grange meetings, you don't know if you put a black ball or a red cube or a 9-sided dice in there. You could put anything that you want. Nobody would know exactly what you put into the ballot box. This, I don't believe, gives that complete anonymity, because you still will have one person, so the organizer of the poll, who would know the results. But if we're going to test this, I'll come back to it later to let you know what I saw. But I think that might be an option for anonymous voting, at least to your peers, not to the person who set up that doodle poll. So feel free to go click on that link and vote, and then we'll see what happens in a few minutes. Carol Carpenter mentioned you could text your response to someone. So, Michael, I could text you and say, yep, I think that this is a great person for our Grange, or nope, I've read too many times he's been in the newspaper for things that we don't want him for. So that's another option as well. Oregon, by the way, may have an answer for us as far as adding Zoom to their repertoire on Saturday. So just
all right.
okay, so some of the other questions. Oh, and Massachusetts has Zoom as well. So that's from Corey Spence. He is next in line. He is the overseer of the State Grange. So that didn't come from the master as far as you can use it, but I assume that if Corey's telling us, you can. So if you're in Massachusetts, you can get a hold of your State Grange master. So a couple of the other questions that came out of this were, what things do you not include in a meeting virtually if you're having guests? So those kids of members that you've talked about that haven't been through the 4 degrees or the welcoming ceremony or anything like that. Is there anything, Betsy, that you would say you cannot do in a Grange meeting if there's guests?
The only thing you can't do is put on the degrees, which I don't think you're going to be doing on Zoom or on the phone right now anyway. So it was decided years ago that salutation is perfectly fine to do in an open meeting with guests present. So I would say you can conduct all your business, do all of the opening ceremony and the salutation with no problem.
Karen, one of the questions was about community events, how we're discussing those community events that are coming up. I know you just had one. That's probably your biggest fundraiser of the year that you're missing, right. And making decisions in the meetings about those events. I don't think I know exactly what the question was, but can you just talk to us a little bit about how you guys discussed this, and was it a vote of your executive committee or was it a vote of your entire membership? How did you deal with canceling such a major event and then staying still connected in these meetings?
Well, in March, it was decided, because we were supposed to have our big leaders day for Texas. And so the state executive committee did come together, and we voted to cancel that, and that we would do all the information electronically. But then our big fundraiser, that was the Strawberry Festival, that was canceled. And so then the Grange came together and they voted, and we had adopted a calendar at the beginning of the year. So we knew kind of what things were going on. Pet vaccinations had to be rescheduled. Other things that were, helping at the Easter, handing out candy, that had to be changed to see what else we could do instead of that. So we kind of just we tried to take the activities we had and how we could change them or what we could do instead. So a lot of the members have started making masks, started giving to the food pantry, starting delivering food to people who couldn't get out. So there were just a lot of different activities. And it's amazing when you come together, your ideas just start flowing instead of you sitting at home going, okay, what can we do? What can we do? If you come together, what one person says, another person can feed off of, and then you get a lot more ideas. So that was kind of where we started, and it was just so helpful. And then we just started making new activities.
Sorry. Yep, there I am. You were reading my lips, Karen. I saw that. So one of the questions, actually several of the questions revolved around minutes. So one of them was about having the secretary read the minutes. And I know, Michael, you talked about that. So I'm going to start with you, but then Betsy, it seems that a lot of people are breaking the rules here. They're sending meeting minutes out prior to their next meeting so people can view them. So I'll have you address that in a minute because I know that that's a problem. Michael?
Yeah, why is that a problem?
It's not.
Okay. We're going to try that to send out the minutes so that people can, well, we'll send them out with the meeting notice. And that way people can read them, and maybe we can just vote to adopt them and don't have to read them all in its entirety during the meeting. So everyone will have received the minutes. But right now we're reading them and then adopting them.
Okay. And Betsy, are they supposed to be sending these meeting minutes out?
I've known of Granges in the past that do that. They print their minutes and pass them out among the members to save time in the meeting, and then members can read them ahead of time. I think it's great to send them out with a meeting notice and not spend that time in the meeting by reading the entire minutes. I know your Grange, Michael, and you do a lot of things, so your minutes would be pretty lengthy.
Yeah, tell me about it. So as the frustrated, almost millennial in the room, I have to tell you that the reading of the minutes, which we do typically in our meetings twice, we do last month's meeting minutes, and then what we just did frustrates me because I'd rather spend that extra 15 minutes because it can be that long, just socializing with the folks that are there, and everybody by that extra 15 minutes is ready to get out the door. So, I mean, I think that sending them out by email has probably happened a lot more frequently than we talk about, because there are other frustrated millennials in the room who just don't really want to, go through that several times. So
you don't have to read them twice. I think it was part of the Action Grange program that said you either at the beginning of the meeting, you can read the motions that were adopted at the last meeting, just to remind you of what happened at the last meeting. You don't have to read the entire minutes. And then I like to read the minutes at the end of the meeting because the people that spoke and made the motions are there, and you can be sure to get the minutes correct before you all leave and time passes and you forget what happened.
And I know that I'm really excited, Michael, about Anime sending their minutes out, because normally every couple of Mondays I'm in DC and I miss our meetings. So sometimes I have absolutely no idea what happened in the meeting before.
Well, and that's what I was going to say, is if we send the minutes out, more people will actually see them than would otherwise hear them.
Mm-hmm.
Just FYI, I will let you know that we have had several people take part in our doodle poll. I've already closed it. So if you're having trouble with that link, that's why, because we were just doing a quick test. 8 people said that this person should become a new member, and 1 said no, they should not. So I'm able to report that without reporting the names. However, most people did sign in with their names, but a few did just with like their initials. So if you were to institute doing a doodle poll for something that you want it completely anonymous in your meeting, and I'll make sure to include that in our little handbook of tricks that you can incorporate for using these meetings. You could potentially say to people, just put in a number. It has to have some text in that field. So just put in like BYB, 1, 2, 3, whatever, in order to stay anonymous, but vote your conscience here, and you will receive, the person will receive the number of votes that have come in. So Doodle is a free option for voting on things that you want to do anonymously. So just FYI on that. Okay, so I'm going to go to a couple last questions. Obviously, we've already hit whether or not this has been, established and is part of National Granges Digest. we've kind of gone over a lot of the stuff I think that people have asked. So if you feel like we haven't, feel free to reach out to me in general. But some of the other questions that have come up are, how do we make sure that people know about these meetings in advance? And I think that's pretty simple. But Karen, what did you do to make sure that you had not just your people who are checking email, but all of your members know and be able to get on either by phone or virtually?
Our secretary has a list of all the phone numbers and the emails, and so we did both, just to make sure that we reached everyone. And then we also put it on our Instagram page, Grange's page, they put on there. And I think Cibolo is going to probably do the same thing. I've already got an invitation to Cibolo, and that's one cool thing about, Cibolo is an hour and 15 minutes from my house. So I'm able to participate in their meetings now a lot more than I would be able to normally. So that's kind of a cool thing.
That's
And
really
we don't have a complete list of email addresses for our members. So I email it out, and in the text I said, please share this with others whom you think may not receive it. We put it on our Facebook page. And I do that a week ahead, and then I do it again the day of.
We sent a postcard out to all of our membership with the conference call number on it, and the schedule of meetings, and what the programs were going to be those evenings. So, and then we usually call the regulars or text the regulars that day to remind them.
I'm just going to give everybody a heads up that we're a little over our normal time, but that's okay. But if you have some questions, you may want to put them in the comments now, because I don't want to miss somebody, but I do want to make sure that we wrap at a reasonable hour. So I'm going to go to the last two questions that I'm seeing, which they're revolving mostly around lectures, programming, and about timing and things of meetings. So Michael, you mentioned that you didn't have the lecturer, for example, do a song, but you didn't mention whether or not you have a program. And Karen and Betsy, if you guys could just weigh in on whether or not you have programs, or if you do those as separate socials apart from your business meeting, or if you just dispense with those entirely during this time.
So far we have dispensed with the program part entirely. Otherwise the meeting would be another 15, 20 minutes longer, and then I'd really catch the devil.
We didn't have a lectures program either. Our main focus was that the members wanted to come up with ideas on how to help the community. So that was mainly our big focus. But, I don't know, it might could change in the future though.
Yeah.
But it's not like we didn't have interaction. We had motions and a lot of discussion on motions before we voted. So it wasn't just a pro forma meeting to go through the steps. No, there was real action and real interaction.
One of the questions was about the manual. Most Grange members leave their manual at the Grange Hall because it's property of the Grange. I think we're addressing that a little bit in the information that we'll put out, but I guess I should ask you, Betsy, at least in this time, can those first few pages of our manual that are the order of business and things be put out? Some of our members had concerns about, copying it and sending it to each other or what have you. But I think at this point that's okay to share with others and not force people to buy a manual and have it home, correct?
Correct. We can put those couple pages out, although we do have lots of manuals available in the Grange store for only $10 plus shipping. But yeah, anybody can sit in on a Grange meeting. It's not secret. The opening ceremony is not secret. So yes, we can publish that, and I'm sure there's lots of Grange members who have a manual in their house.
Yeah, some of us have a really beaten up version that has a lot of notes in it. But these are available. Loretta is going into the office. She is filling store orders. It is a little bit slower, obviously, than it has been in the past, since she's not in there every day and Stephanie's not in there every day shipping. But you can get your manual at the store. And if this is something that you need, those first few pages as PDF can be sent. They're really only a couple pages. And I think, there's a lot of stuff you can take from here that you could take in everyday life as lessons. We just put out something the other day, a poster of the hour of labor has arrived and the work of another day demands our attention. And, I think that's a great message for a Monday. So it might be good to have one of those in your house to look over occasionally.
Yeah.
And take note that is a light blue paperback manual. It's
Beautiful. It's
been available for what, 10 years now?
2013.
13, okay. 7 years it's been available. And I'm sure there's lots of Grangers out there that still don't know that we have it.
Mm-hmm.
It has the alternative opening in it. It has the welcoming ceremony in it. Everything that we use, all the degrees, the installation, everything is in that light blue manual. So make use of it.
It also
Order it.
has the not as great to say, but it has the burial service and things like that. If you're a dedicated Grange member, that's something that you may want at your service. So if you've got this, it's something that you can use multiple times, not just at your Grange meetings, I think. And for those of us who don't see the degrees as frequently as many of us did, or many of you did when you were younger, it's something to be able to go back and read some of the degree stuff as the seasons are rolling around. I was just reading the first degree stuff because it's spring, and you take something away new from it every time. So I would just say that having one of those in your possession would not be the worst investment. All right, so we have mostly hit all the questions, I think, except everyone kind of going back to what kind of resources can we provide. And so I do promise we are getting to that, but obviously making sure that it's approved and it's as complete and accurate as we can provide you. So look for that hopefully tomorrow or the first of next week. It'll be emailed. It will be posted to our website. We will post a link here. So you'll have lots of options. So I don't know. I mean, I think we covered a whole lot tonight. But I just received a text from my husband. And so because I'm sitting here with both my boss and our master, I believe he felt like he should say this. At this time, he said, I've always thought that we might want to have a Grange meeting or a Grange event each week, because we have the ability to do a game night or something else. I know what he's talking about. So ask them if it's, appropriate to have something once a week at this time. Maybe your lectures program could happen then. So Michael, I think that one's to you. But I'll ask each of you to weigh in. Is there some interest, at least in the active Granges, or something that you would say for your active Granges to potentially have something maybe once a week that people could get involved with? Like Pennsylvania and North Carolina have done bingo once a week now and stuff like that. So is this the time to really connect people with Grange through kind of weekly programming like you find with 4-H meetings and Scout meetings and things?
Well, let me start from that perspective. We families with school-age children are spending so much time online during the day that in my professional life with 4-H, it's a two-sided coin. It's like, yes, we can meet and we can meet easily. No, we've spent all day online. We're not going to do it in the evening too. So it's you pick the side of the coin that you want to be on. This is a big cultural shift for us as a society. And the part that we haven't heard a lot about yet, I think, is the mental health impact in terms of stress and frustration, let alone isolation. And that is weighing heavy. So maybe a game night once a week and a Grange meeting every other week, maybe that would be great. I would say let's wait till the kids are out of school.
That's probably smart.
Right.
I agree with you, Michael, on families with small children. But think of the older people, middle-aged even, whose kids are gone. They've been locked up, one or two of them in the house for 6 weeks now. They may need at least once a week. I mean, that's why National Grange is providing every day programming just to engage these people that really don't have anything else to do. I'm so thankful that I'm not living here alone, that I had the foresight about 8 years ago to have my daughter and her family move in with me, or I would really be going nuts.
I agree.
I think, people like me who might have like a softball event once a week or something like that, we're all canceled. The schedules have gotten cleared. I normally travel typically about once a month or a couple days a month to go down to the office. That's all off the schedule. And so it's hard to find new things to talk about. So I agree with my husband for possibly a different reason. But we may need something new to talk about here, Michael. So, but I should transition that to say that if your Grange is having something like Pennsylvania and North Carolina have invited Grange members from around the country to take part in their bingo, if there is something that you can invite our Grange members from outside of your Grange to do, but really if there's something you can invite our Grange members from another state to do, you can invite your neighbors who are right down the road from your Grange hall to do. So please make sure to put that information out. Let us know if we can send people your way. Let your community know if you're hosting something like that, because we're not the only ones going probably up the walls, and we have a lot more probably to do because of these type of meetings and things. So I have to thank you guys. I have to thank everybody who's come on these programs, because they've really made a lot of things more accessible and really provided us a lot of information. But tonight I think was great because we're able to tackle a topic that everybody's kind of trying to figure out at the same time from some good perspectives. So Betsy, Karen, Michael, thank you guys so much for coming on here and giving your perspectives.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you for everything you're doing.
Absolutely.
Been a pleasure.
I have a closing statement that I just read in Maryland's newsletter today. Cliff Newsome, their membership director, wrote, "You never know who's watching what your Grange does for their community. The one day they will say, I want to join a group like yours." So that's what we're all about. Help your community. People will see it and maybe want to join us when we can get back together again. So thanks, Amanda.
Thank you all very much. Stay safe, stay healthy, wash your hands. Okay, we're not live anymore. Thank you guys so much. It was awesome.
Alrighty. Good night, everybody.
Night. Hey,
Bye.
Karen, if you
Yeah.
guys have anything going on in Texas that we can send people to, you let me know, because I heard that there might be some bingo or something going on down there soon.
When is this?
I said, if one of your Granges has something going on down there that we can send people to, let me know, because I heard there might be bingo or something going on down there.
Okay.
Or at least we were asked how they were doing it, and I was like, I have no idea. You got to contact them. I haven't learned that yet.
I don't know either. So yeah, we'll find out.
All right, sounds good.
Okay.
Night. Thank you.
Night.
Thanks, Betsy. Tell
Thank
everybody
you.
I said hi.
That was good.
Yeah, I think so. I will add those new 2 platforms. Karen, well, I saw Google Meet from a couple people, and then Karen messaged me and she's like, "Did you know about Insta conference? You should put that in there too." So, so I'll add those 2 after you have everything else.
Okay.
Since they're only platforms and they're not like suggestions on Grange meetings.
Yeah.
That's your area. I'll let you get in trouble for that.
Thanks.
Problem. Is there anything else that you need?
Nope.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, in which case I will see you. I'll talk to you probably tomorrow.
Okay.
All right. Good night.
Night.
Thank you.